What if the very thing that opens your eyes to truth also makes your heart ache in ways no one warned you about? Spiritual awakening is often painted as a path to peace, clarity, even bliss. But hidden beneath the light is a deeper, more complex reality. The more awake you become, the harder it is to love the way the world taught you. You no longer chase validation. You no longer cling to roles. You see through the illusions of romantic fantasy. And in that clarity, you begin to feel a strange loneliness, a raw spaciousness, a love that no longer needs, but still longs. Alan Watts, with his unflinching insight, spoke of this paradox often, that to awaken is to break the spell. And once the spell is broken, you can't pretend anymore. You can't perform love. You can only be it. But being it in a world that's still asleep can feel like exile. This video is not for the faint of heart. It's for the ones who've woken up and wondered, why does love feel harder now? It's for those walking between worlds, holding both the ache of solitude and the vastness of truth. If that's you, welcome. This is the conversation you've been waiting for. When a soul awakens, something subtle but seismic occurs. The veil begins to lift on everything they once believed love to be. The fairy tales dissolve. The need to be completed by another starts to feel foreign. What once seemed like the pinnacle of emotional fulfillment, romantic love, now reveals itself as a playground of projections. This is the paradox of awakening. You begin to see love more clearly, but that clarity makes it harder to participate in the illusions that used to feel so comforting. For most, love is entangled in unconscious desire, fueled by wounds masquerading as passion. Awakening brings a kind of brutal honesty. The seeker realizes that much of what they called love was, in truth, attachment, validation-seeking, or fear of loneliness. And once seen, these patterns can't be unseen. This clarity doesn't make the heart cold. It makes it honest. But in a world still enamored with the illusion that honesty can feel isolating, Alan Watts often spoke of the trap of mistaking the symbol for the reality. In love, we often fall for the image we hold of a person, not the person themselves. Awakening exposes this mirage. You begin to love less for what someone gives you and more for who they are, free of roles, free of expectations. But not everyone is ready to be loved that way, and not everyone is ready to love that way in return. This shift creates tension. The awakened one longs for connection, but not at the cost of truth. They can no longer pretend. They can no longer perform love to keep peace or play roles to avoid discomfort. The truth of their love is deep, yet it may appear distant to those still asleep, because it doesn't chase, it doesn't cling, it simply is. And that stillness can be misunderstood as coldness. So here lies the paradox. Spiritual awakening opens the heart to universal love, while simultaneously making personal love more complex. You see love as it is, not as the world sells it. And in that seeing, you must let go of the fantasy. But what you gain in return is something more enduring. The ability to love without illusion, without need, without fear. Most people confuse love with attachment, but spiritual awakening reveals a deeper truth. Attachment is the ego's survival mechanism, not love's pure expression. When someone awakens, the veil of unconscious clinging starts to fall. Suddenly, the need to possess someone, to label them mine, or to secure their presence becomes absurd. The awakened heart doesn't grasp. It observes, appreciates, and lets be. But for those still ruled by ego, this kind of freedom can feel like emotional detachment. Awareness brings space. Space between thought and reaction. Space between desire and action. In this space, the awakened individual sees their patterns, the way they once begged for reassurance, interpreted silence as rejection, or needed constant affirmation. The ego demands certainty. Awareness lives in flow. And that flow, while liberating, doesn't always play well with traditional notions of romantic love. Alan Watts often said, "Trying to hold on to love is like trying to hold on to water. The more tightly we grip, the more it slips through our fingers." The awakened soul learns this truth intimately. They no longer seek to own love, but to dance with it. They see love not as a possession, but as a current. Something you enter into, something you surrender to, not something you dominate or control. This can terrify those still seeking love as a form of security. To them, love is meant to anchor, but for the awakened, love is meant to liberate. They want to love and be loved in freedom, not from fear. And this, tragically, is where the chasm often widens. The awakened one no longer needs someone to fill a void, and this very wholeness can feel threatening to someone who still loves from lack. What's left then is the question, can love exist without possession? Awakening answers with a resounding yes, but it's a love that doesn't fit the mold. It doesn't text back right away, doesn't panic when you need space, doesn't crumble under silence. It remains steady and clear, asking only for authenticity in return. It is the kind of love that says, "You are free, and so am I." One of the most profound illusions that awakening dissolves is the myth of the perfect partner. Before awakening, many chase the fantasy, the soulmate, the twin flame, the person who will finally make everything feel right. But once the veil lifts, the seeker begins to see how much of this pursuit was fueled by inner lack, by unresolved wounds projected outward onto a romantic ideal. It's not that deep connection isn't real, it's that the idea of completion through another is a spiritual trap. The awakened individual starts noticing how much of love was about expectation. They should act this way. They should understand me. They should never leave. But awareness reveals that these expectations were never about the other person. They were about the self, trying to control life to avoid discomfort. Awakening doesn't make someone stop loving. It just removes the fantasy lens through which they once viewed love. Alan Watts would often laugh at our desperate clinging to ideals, reminding us that life and love are not meant to be perfected. They're meant to be lived. The search for the perfect partner becomes irrelevant to the awakened soul, not because they've given up on love, but because they now see that no one can carry the burden of being someone else's salvation. That responsibility lies within. This doesn't mean the awakened heart is closed, far from it, but now it seeks resonance, not rescue. It seeks truth, not performance. It no longer needs the fireworks of infatuation to feel alive. Instead, it longs for depth, for shared silence, for mutual awakening, for growth that isn't always easy, but is always real. The perfect partner, in this light, is not the flawless one, but the conscious one. And so the fantasy dies, and something more beautiful takes its place. A love that isn't wrapped in projection, but grounded in presence. A love that says, "I see you as you are, not as I wish you to be." It is quieter, subtler, and often misunderstood in a world addicted to grand romantic gestures. But to the awakened, it is the only kind of love that feels true. There comes a moment after awakening when the seeker realizes they are walking alone. Not because they are unloved, but because few can walk with them where they now dwell. The awakened heart doesn't fit neatly into the world's boxes anymore. Its silence feels strange to the noisy. Its freedom feels threatening to the dependent. Its depth often goes unrecognized. This solitude can be painful, but it is not loneliness. It is spaciousness. It is communion with the self. For those still tied to egoic validation, being alone feels like rejection. But to the awakened, solitude is sacred. It's in the quiet spaces that truth echoes loudest. Relationships no longer serve as escapes from oneself. They become mirrors, invitations, but never crutches. And because of this, many awakened souls find that their social circles shrink, their romantic life simplifies, and their emotional world deepens. Alan Watts once mused that to truly awaken is to step outside the game. But stepping outside means no longer playing by the rules others still live by. The awakened heart may stop chasing relationships, stop engaging in emotional bargaining, stop seeking identity through another. This shift can be misinterpreted. Others might say, "You've changed," or "You've grown distant." But in truth, the awakened one has simply become real, and in becoming real, they often must walk through the valley of sacred aloneness. It is here that one discovers that true connection doesn't arise from need, it arises from overflow. The awakened heart doesn't beg to be seen. It sees, it doesn't chase presence, it radiates it. And because of this, it may go long stretches without romantic entanglements, but never without love. Because love now is not about the other, it's about the field of being. The awakened heart learns to hold itself with the same tenderness it once reserved only for lovers. And in that wholeness, it becomes a magnet, not for drama or distraction, but for depth, resonance, and truth. Alone, yes, but never truly lonely. There's a fine line between detachment and apathy, but awakening teaches you how to walk it with grace. In the world before awakening, love is often confused with possession. To love someone means to claim them, to have a right to their time, energy, and attention. But in awakening, this illusion dissolves. The awakened heart learns that real love does not bind, it liberates. And in that liberation, it must also release the old idea of ownership. This shift can be deeply unsettling. Letting go of ownership feels like letting go of control. And for many, love without control feels unsafe. But the awakened soul understands that true love can only exist where there is freedom. That means giving those you love the space to choose you again and again, not because they're obligated, but because their heart aligns with yours. Detachment, then, is not indifference. It is the highest form of respect. Alan Watts often reminded us that clinging suffocates. Just as a flower cannot be preserved by gripping it tightly, love cannot thrive under the pressure of possession. The more awake a person becomes, the more they see how love has been weaponized, how it's used to bind, to guilt, to manipulate. They refuse to engage in this masquerade. Instead, they offer love like breath, freely, gently, without demand. This can be misinterpreted by those still rooted in egoic attachment. They may see the awakened one as aloof, emotionally distant or uncaring, but nothing could be further from the truth. The awakened heart feels more deeply than ever. It simply no longer requires validation to feel worthy, nor control to feel secure. It chooses love without conditions, without hooks, without contracts. To love without ownership is to say, "You are free, and I will not try to shape your freedom to fit my comfort." This kind of love is rare, but profoundly healing. It creates space for souls to breathe, to evolve, and to meet one another in their full authenticity. It is not easy, but it is real. And in a world built on illusions, real love is revolutionary. Before awakening, most relationships operate under a silent code, unspoken agreements that dictate how love is exchanged. You make me feel needed, and I'll make you feel desired. You pretend to need saving, and I'll pretend to be your savior. These agreements feel like love, but they are contracts built from trauma, conditioning, and societal scripting. Spiritual awakening reveals the machinery behind the scenes, exposing the roles we unknowingly play and the needs we unconsciously project. This realization can be deeply uncomfortable. Suddenly, what once felt intimate now seems transactional. The awakened soul begins to notice how often "I love you" really means "don't leave me." I could even how often affection is used as currency and conflict is used as a test of loyalty. The illusion of romance starts to crumble, revealing a deeper truth. Most relationships are not based on love. but on mutual unconsciousness. Alan Watts often joked that we're all just playing roles, pretending not to know we're acting. In love, the roles are particularly seductive. The caretaker, the seductress, the provider, the martyr. Awakening strips these masks away. And without the mask, one must ask, who am I without my role? Who are you without yours? And can we love each other from that raw, unfiltered place? This is where many relationships dissolve or are reborn. Because when both partners awaken, something miraculous can happen. The unconscious contracts are torn up and replaced with conscious choice. No more manipulation cloaked as affection, no more dependency disguised as devotion. Just presence, honesty, and the willingness to grow. But getting there requires dismantling the old patterns. It requires grieving the fantasy. It means facing the fact that much of what we called love was performance, habit, or fear of being alone. The awakened heart refuses to play this game. It will not settle for unconscious partnership, not out of arrogance, but because it now knows what's possible when two souls meet without a script. Alan Watts, with his signature blend of humor and mysticism, often described life and love not as a problem to solve, but a dance to participate in. He spoke of the interbeing of all things, a concept rooted in Eastern wisdom that suggests nothing exists independently. In love, this means you and the one you love are not two separate entities exchanging energy. You are two waves on the same ocean, rising and falling in rhythm. But the moment we try to hold the wave, the dance ends. To cling is to interrupt the flow. The awakened soul sees this clearly. They no longer try to keep love, they aim to be love. The fear of losing someone, once so dominant, begins to dissolve. This doesn't mean they don't care. It means they understand impermanence. Everything flows, everything changes, and trying to preserve love through control only speeds its decay. Watts warned against our obsession with permanence. He reminded us that to love is to embrace the transient, to find joy in the fleeting, to know that beauty is enhanced, not diminished, by its impermanence. This challenges the modern obsession with forever. The awakened lover is not asking, will you stay with me until the end, but rather, can you meet me fully, here, now, without clinging to what was or demanding what will be? This way of loving feels radical in a culture of contracts and conditions. But it is the most natural love of all. It is the love of the cosmos, the way the stars burn without asking to be noticed, the way the sun rises without expecting thanks. It gives, it shares, and it lets go. To walk the path Alan Watts pointed to is not easy. It requires surrender. It requires trust, not in another, but in the flow of life itself. But in this surrender, the awakened one discovers a love that is spacious, eternal, and free. Not because it lasts forever, but because it doesn't need to. When the veil of illusion falls, love becomes something entirely different. It's no longer about emotional cushioning or romantic highs or filling in the gaps of your self-worth. It becomes a spiritual practice, raw, vulnerable, confronting. This is the true test of awakening. Can you love consciously, even when it's uncomfortable? Can you choose truth over habit, presence over performance, depth over ease? Most people want love to soothe them. The awakened soul seeks love that awakens them further. That means facing uncomfortable truths, being seen in shadow as well as light, and holding space for transformation, not just connection. The comfort of predictable roles disappears, replaced by the aliveness of real presence. It's not always soft, but it's always real. Alan Watts spoke often about the cosmic joke, that life is a play, and we are both actors and audience. But awakening means we stop taking our roles so seriously. In love, that means no longer pretending to be the ideal partner, the rescuer, or the helpless victim. It means standing in authenticity, knowing that conscious love may not be safe, but it is sacred. It challenges, it purifies, it heals. This kind of love can't be found by chasing, it must be cultivated. It requires two awake hearts choosing to meet again and again, not because they need each other, but because they recognize each other. It is not a fairy tale, it is a fire. It burns away what is false, and what remains is forged in soul-deep truth. In the end, awakening doesn't make love easier, it makes it real. And real love demands more than comfort, it demands courage. The courage to see, to stay, to grow, and when necessary, to let go. Not out of fear, but out of profound respect for the freedom of all beings, including the one you love. In the end, spiritual awakening doesn't give you a perfect love story. It gives you an unfiltered one. It strips away the safety nets, the stories, the roles, until all that's left is truth. And in that raw, trembling honesty, you begin to love not because you need to, but because you choose to. Not because someone completes you, but because your soul recognizes them as a mirror. Yes, awakening makes love harder, but not because love is broken, because illusion is. And in the ruins of those illusions, something extraordinary can be born. A love that is conscious, unpossessive, and vibrationally aligned with freedom. If you've felt misunderstood, isolated, or even heartbroken on this path, know this: you are not broken. You are becoming. You are being initiated into a deeper octave of connection, one that doesn't rely on control, but coherence. One that flows with the universe, not against it. So breathe deeply, trust the silence, and let yourself love from that sacred awakened place, where nothing is promised, but everything is real. If this message stirred something in you, like this video and subscribe to the Cosmic Awakening channel. Because here, we don't just talk about awakening, we live it.